Let me share with you what actually happens in consciousness during a 72-hour period following a true change in your assumption. The first 24 hours are crucial, as this is when your new assumption begins to take root in your subconscious mind. The second 24 hours strengthen this new pattern, and by the third day, a complete transformation of consciousness has occurred. Many of you wonder why your manifestations seem to take so long, why your reality doesn't immediately reflect your desires. But I tell you this, there is a specific period of gestation for every seed planted in consciousness, just as there is for every seed planted in the earth. 72 hours represents a complete cycle of transformation in consciousness. Consider this. In Scripture, we read of the 3 days Christ spent in the tomb before his resurrection. This is not merely a historical account, but a profound psychological truth. Every transformation in consciousness requires the 3 days. It's 72 hours before externalization begins. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your entire approach to manifestation. You stop wondering when your desire will manifest and start understanding the precise law that governs all manifestation. You recognize that time is not an enemy, but a necessary component of psychological gestation. Let me tell you something vital about these 72 hours. They begin the moment you completely accept your desire as an accomplished fact. Not when you start wishing for it, not when you start affirming it, but when you actually accept it as done in your consciousness. Here's a profound truth about this 72-hour period. It operates whether you believe in it or not. Just as a seed will take a specific time to germinate, regardless of whether you understand the process, your assumption will take approximately 72 hours to begin its manifestation, regardless of your conscious beliefs about timing. Think about this. Every major change in your life was preceded by a change in your consciousness approximately 72 hours before its physical manifestation. You may not have been aware of it, but this law was operating nonetheless. This law operates in consciousness with absolute precision, transforming your entire world through a specific sequence that unfolds over these 72 hours. Let me break down for you exactly what happens during this crucial period of transformation. In the first 24 hours, something profound begins to occur in your consciousness. The moment you truly accept your desire as an accomplished fact, your entire inner world begins to reorganize itself around this new assumption. Old patterns of thought begin to dissolve, and a new pattern starts to form. Many of you have experienced fleeting moments of acceptance, only to fall back into doubt and disbelief. But I tell you this, if you can maintain your new assumption for just 72 hours, holding it as true regardless of external evidence, you will set in motion forces that manifest in its manifestation. Consider this. When a woman conceives, she doesn't immediately see external evidence of her pregnancy. Yet from the very first moment of conception, forces are at work within her body, preparing for the manifestation of new life. The same is true of your consciousness during these first 24 hours. During the second 24-hour period, something even more remarkable occurs. Your new assumption begins to affect your subjective world, your thoughts, your feelings, your natural reactions to events. You begin to think from your desire fulfilled rather than of it. Let me tell you something crucial about this second day. This is often when doubt tries to creep in. The external world may still show no evidence of change, and your rational mind may try to convince you that nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, massive reorganization is taking place. Here's a profound truth about the second day. It's the period of death to the old man. Just as Christ spent the second day in the tomb, this is when your old patterns of thought and belief must die to make way for the new. This can feel uncomfortable, even disconcerting, but it's absolutely necessary. Think about this. Every transformation in nature goes through a period where the old form must die before the new can emerge. The caterpillar must cease to be a caterpillar before it can become a butterfly. The same principle applies to your consciousness during these crucial 72 hours. The very discomfort you might feel during this period is evidence that transformation is occurring. Your old patterns of thought and belief are dissolving, making way for your new assumption to take root and grow. The final 24 hours of this 72-hour period are perhaps the most crucial, for this is when the complete transformation of consciousness occurs. This is the period of resurrection, when your new assumption becomes so natural that you can no longer remember how it felt to be in your former state. Let me share with you exactly what happens during these final 24 hours. Your new assumption, which has been gestating in the depths of your consciousness, begins to rise to the surface. It no longer feels like something you're trying to believe, it simply feels like what is. Many of you might experience what seems like a moment of crisis during this final period. But I tell you this, what appears to be a crisis is often the breaking point where the old must give way to the new. It's the darkness before the dawn, the final resistance of the old man before the new man rises. Consider this, in Scripture, it was during the final hours in the tomb that the resurrection occurred. Not gradually, not partially, but in one complete transformation. The same is true of your consciousness during these final 24 hours. The transformation, when it comes, is complete. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your experience of these 72 hours. You stop seeing them as a period of waiting and start recognizing them as a sacred time of transformation. Each hour becomes precious, each moment significant. Let me tell you something vital about these final hours. They often bring what appears to be a complete contradiction to your desire. This is what I call the moment of greatest appearance of failure. But remember, appearances are merely the shadow of past assumptions, not the reality of your present consciousness. Here's a profound truth about this final period. It's when your outer world begins to respond to your new inner conviction. Things begin to shift, often in ways you couldn't have consciously planned or anticipated. People begin to treat you differently. Circumstances begin to rearrange themselves. Think about this. Every great transformation in history appeared darkest just before its completion. The crucifixion preceded the resurrection. The darkest hour comes just before dawn. This principle is reflected in your own consciousness during these final hours. The very circumstances that seem to deny your assumption are often the ones being rearranged to accommodate its fulfillment. What appears to be resistance is actually reorganization. This reorganization of your outer world follows an immutable pattern, much like the transformation of your inner consciousness. Just as a seed must break through the soil that appears to resist it, your new assumption must break through the appearances of your current reality. Let me share with you what actually happens in your outer world during this period. People who seemed indifferent to you suddenly become helpful. Circumstances that appeared fixed begin to shift. Opportunities that weren't visible before suddenly present themselves. All of this occurs not by chance, by law. Many of you observe your outer world anxiously during these 72 hours, looking for signs of change. But I tell you this, the changes are occurring whether you can see them or not. Just as a plant grows beneath the soil before breaking through to the surface, your manifestation is taking form before becoming visible. Consider this: when you plant a seed, the soil must be disturbed. Old patterns must be broken up to make way for new growth. The same is true of your outer world during these 72 hours. What appears as disruption is actually the rearrangement necessary for your new assumption to manifest. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your response to external circumstances during this period. You stop being disturbed by appearances that seem to contradict your assumption. You recognize them as necessary adjustments in the grand pattern of manifestation. Let me tell you something crucial about this reorganization. It often occurs in ways that your conscious mind could never have planned. The wisdom of your subconscious mind, which is one with infinite intelligence, knows exactly how to bring about the conditions necessary for your assumption to materialize. Here's a profound truth about this outer reorganization. It follows the path of least resistance. While your conscious mind might imagine complicated scenarios requiring massive changes, your subconscious mind finds the simplest, most natural way to bring about your desire's fulfillment. Think about this. Every desire you hold contains within itself the seeds of its own fulfillment. When you plant that desire in consciousness through your assumption, it begins to attract and arrange everything necessary for its manifestation. This arrangement often occurs in ways that appear miraculous to the conscious mind. The very circumstances that seem to stand in the way of your desire often become the means of its fulfillment. This is the wisdom of the law operating through the perfect pattern of the 72-hour principle. This pattern unfolds in your experience with a precision that would astonish you if you could see it from a higher perspective. Every thought, every encounter, every seemingly random event during these 72 hours is part of an intricate dance orchestrated by your new assumption. Let me share with you what's actually occurring moment by moment during this period. Your consciousness, having accepted the new assumption, begins to attract corresponding experiences. People begin to treat you according to your new concept of self. Circumstances begin to mirror your inner conviction. This isn't coincidence, it's law. Many of you wonder why certain people suddenly change their behavior toward you, why new opportunities suddenly appear, why solutions to old problems suddenly become clear. But I tell you this, nothing is sudden about it. Each change is the result of your shifted consciousness working through the perfect pattern of these 72 hours. Consider this: when you drop a pebble into a pond, the ripples move outward in perfect circles, affecting every part of the water's surface. Your assumption works in the same way during these 72 hours, sending ripples through the entire fabric of your reality, touching every aspect of your world. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your awareness during this period. You begin to recognize every event, every conversation, every seemingly random occurrence as part of the pattern of fulfillment. Nothing is meaningless. Everything is significant. Let me tell you something vital about this unfolding pattern. It requires no effort on your part beyond maintaining your assumption. You don't need to make things happen. You don't need to manipulate circumstances. The pattern unfolds by law, not by effort. Here's a profound truth about these 72 hours. They represent a complete cycle of transformation, from death of the old to birth of the new. Just as the moon moves through its phases, just as the earth rotates through day and night, your consciousness moves through this perfect pattern of transformation. Think about this: every great master who ever walked the earth taught this same truth in different words. 3 days in the tomb, the third day resurrection, the threefold pattern of transformation. They were all pointing to this same law that operates in consciousness through the 72-hour cycle. The very experiences you encounter during this period, whether they appear positive or negative, are all part of the perfect pattern of fulfillment. Nothing is out of place. Nothing is accidental. To recognize and work with this pattern requires a complete reversal of your usual way of thinking. Instead of looking to external events for evidence, you must maintain an unshakable awareness of your assumptions, reality, these 72 hours. Let me share with you exactly how to maintain this awareness as the pattern unfolds. When you wake each morning during this period, your first thought must be from the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. Before your feet touch the floor, before your mind engages with the day's activities, you must renew your awareness of already being who you desire to be. Many of you start your days by immediately checking external reality for signs of change. But I tell you this: the external will not show evidence until the full 72-hour cycle is complete. Your task during this time is to live from your new assumption, regardless of appearances. Consider this: when an actor takes on a role, they must maintain that character's consciousness throughout the entire performance. They can't drop in and out of character and expect to give a convincing performance. The same is true of your new assumption during these 72 hours. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your daily experience. You stop living in anticipation of change and start living from the consciousness of the change already accomplished. This is the secret of working with the pattern rather than against it. Let me tell you something crucial about maintaining this awareness. It's not about forcing yourself to believe something. It's about allowing yourself to feel the naturalness of your new state. The more natural it feels, the more powerfully the pattern works. Here's a profound truth about these 72 hours. Your every reaction, your every response, your every inner conversation must spring from your new assumption. This isn't about pretending or affirming. It's about actually occupying your desired state in consciousness. Think about this. Every time you react from your old state of consciousness, you interrupt the pattern. Every time you respond from your new assumption, you strengthen it. The pattern requires consistency in consciousness to work its perfect law. The very circumstances that tempt you to react from your old state are actually opportunities to strengthen your new assumption. Each challenge is a chance to prove the reality of your inner transformation. These challenging moments during the 72 hours are not obstacles to your manifestation. They are vital parts of the pattern itself. They are opportunities to prove the reality of your new state in consciousness. Let me share with you exactly what to do when these moments arise. When circumstances seem to contradict your assumption, when people act contrary to your desired experience, when everything appears to be moving in the opposite direction. These are the moments when your new consciousness must be maintained with even greater conviction. Many of you interpret challenging circumstances as evidence that your assumption isn't working. But I tell you this, these very circumstances are part of the bridge of incidents, necessary events that must occur to bring about the fulfillment of your desire. They are not obstacles, but stepping stones. Consider this. When you're driving at night, the headlights illuminate only a small portion of the road ahead. Yet you trust that as you continue moving forward, more of the path will be revealed. The same trust is required during these 72 hours. You don't need to see the entire path. You need only maintain your assumption. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your response to challenging circumstances. Instead of being discouraged by apparent contradictions, you begin to welcome them as confirmation that the old patterns are dissolving to make way for the new. Let me tell you something vital about these challenging moments. They often intensify just before the manifestation of your desire. This intensification is not a sign of failure, but a sign that the old patterns are making their final stand before dissolving completely. Here's a profound truth about handling these moments. Your only task is to remain faithful to your assumption. You don't need to fight circumstances, argue with appearances, or try to force changes. Your task is simply to maintain your consciousness of the wish fulfilled. Think about this. Every great manifestation in history was preceded by a period of apparent contradiction. The darkest hour comes just before dawn. The seed must completely break down before the new plant can emerge. These are not merely poetic metaphors. They are descriptions of the law in operation. The very circumstances that seem most opposed to your desire are often the ones being rearranged to bring about its fulfillment. What appears as resistance is actually reorganization. This process of reorganization during the 72 hours follows a precise pattern that, understood, will transform your entire approach to manifestation. What appears as chaos in your outer world is actually perfect order taking shape according to your new assumption. Let me share with you what's actually happening during this reorganization. Your entire world, every person, every circumstance, every condition must adjust itself to match your new assumption. This adjustment often appears as disruption before the new pattern emerges. Many of you become discouraged when your world appears to be falling apart during these 72 hours. But I tell you this, what appears to be falling apart is actually falling into place. The old patterns must dissolve before the new patterns can emerge, just as old structures must be demolished before new ones can be built. Consider this: when you rearrange furniture in a room, there's always a moment when everything appears to be in chaos. The room looks worse before it looks better. The same principle applies to the reorganization of your world during these 72 hours. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your perception of change. You stop resisting the apparent chaos and start recognizing it as a necessary part of the reorganization. You understand that disorder is often the prelude to a new and higher order. Let me tell you something crucial about this reorganization. It affects not only your external circumstances, but also your inner world. Old thought patterns dissolve, old emotional responses fade away, old habits naturally fall aside as your new assumption takes root. Here's a profound truth about this process. It works with mathematical precision. Just as water must reach 212 degrees Fahrenheit to boil, just as a seed must remain in darkness before it sprouts, your consciousness must maintain your assumption for approximately 72 hours for complete reorganization to occur. Think about this. Every major shift in your life followed this same pattern, whether you were conscious of it or not. A change in consciousness always preceded a change in circumstance by approximately 72 hours. This is not coincidence, it is law. The very disruption you experience during this period is evidence that the law is working. Your world is reorganizing itself to match your new assumption with perfect precision. This precision of the law operating through the 72-hour principle is as exact as any law in physics or mathematics. It operates with the same certainty that brings dawn after night, spring after winter, harvest after planting. Let me share with you exactly how this precision manifests in your experience. During these 72 hours, everything, every word you speak, every action you take is either aligned with your new assumption or contradicts it. There is no neutral ground. The law registers everything with perfect precision. Many of you wonder why some manifestations seem to come easily while others appear to resist your efforts. But I tell you this, the law is never working more or less effectively. The only variable is your consciousness, your ability to maintain your assumption consistently throughout the 72-hour period. Consider this: when you drop an object, gravity doesn't sometimes work and sometimes fail. It operates with perfect precision every time. The same is true of this law of consciousness. Your assumption, held steadily for 72 hours, must manifest with the same certainty that a released object must fall. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your approach to manifestation. You stop hoping and start knowing. You stop pleading and start accepting. You stop wondering if it will work and start living from the certainty that it must work. Let me tell you something vital about this precision. It operates independently of your past experiences, your current circumstances, or others' opinions. The law responds only to your consciousness, your assumption maintained over these 72 hours. Here's a profound truth about this precise operation of law. It works the same way for everyone every time. Just as mathematics doesn't play favorites, just as gravity doesn't discriminate, this law operates with perfect precision for anyone who applies it correctly. Think about this. Every successful manifestation you've ever experienced, whether consciously or unconsciously, followed this precise pattern. The law didn't bend or make exceptions. It simply outpictured with mathematical precision whatever you assume to be true. The very precision that seems to work against you when you doubt is the same precision that works for you when you maintain your assumption. The law is always working with perfect accuracy. Working with this precision requires a complete understanding of how consciousness operates during these 72 hours. Your every thought, your every inner conversation, your every feeling must align with your assumption with the same precision that a mathematician applies to equations. Let me share with you exactly how to maintain this precise alignment. When you wake in the morning, your first thought must be from your new state. When you go about your day, your inner conversations must reflect your assumption. When you fall asleep at night, you must sleep as though your desire is already fulfilled. Many of you approach manifestation with a mixture of old and new states, shifting between doubt and belief, between old patterns and new assumptions. But I tell you this, the law requires precision. You cannot serve two masters. You must choose your assumption and maintain it with unwavering fidelity. Consider this: when a watchmaker assembles a timepiece, every gear, every spring, every component must be precisely aligned. A single misaligned piece affects the entire mechanism. The same is true of your consciousness during these 72 hours. Every aspect must be in perfect alignment. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your mental discipline. You become acutely aware of your thoughts, your inner conversations, your reactions. You recognize that each mental movement either supports or undermines your assumption. Let me tell you something crucial about this precision. It extends to your emotional state as well. You must feel with the same precision that you think. The feeling of your wish fulfilled must be so precise that it becomes your dominant emotional state. Here's a profound truth about working with this precision. It requires constant vigilance during these 72 hours. You cannot afford mental laziness or emotional indulgence in the old state. Every moment must be lived from your new assumption with mathematical precision. Think about this. Just as a scientist in a laboratory must maintain precise conditions for an experiment to succeed, you must maintain precise conditions in consciousness for your instruction to manifest. There can be no contamination from doubts, no dilution with fears. The very precision that makes this law seem demanding is what makes it infallible. When you maintain your assumption with mathematical accuracy, the law must respond with equal precision. I shall share with you 6 words that contain within them the absolute power to transform your world and attract unlimited abundance into your life. These are not mere words, they are the very seeds of creation, the living power of God in expression. The 6 words are, I am the source of all abundance. Now, you might be thinking these are simple words, but I tell you with absolute conviction that within these 6 words lies the secret of all creation, all manifestation, all abundance. For you see, these words contain the 2 most powerful words in all of Scripture. I am, followed by the recognition of your true nature as the source of all abundance. Let me share with you why these 6 words hold such tremendous power. First, you must understand that your I am is God. This is not blasphemy. This is the deepest truth of Scripture. When Moses asked God his name, God replied, I am that I am. This I am is your true identity, your divine nature, your real self. When you speak these 6 words, I am the source of all abundance, you are not making an affirmation. You are making a recognition. You are acknowledging your true identity as the creator of your world. For you see, abundance doesn't come to you. It comes through you. You are its source. Many of you come to me saying, Neville, I've tried affirmations before, and they don't work. But I tell you now, these 6 words are not an affirmation. They are a statement of absolute truth. They are a recognition of who you really are. And when spoken with understanding and feeling, they must produce results. Let me explain why these particular 6 words are so powerful. The words I am contain within them all the creative power in the universe. Whatever follows your am, you become. Therefore, when you say, I am the source of all abundance, you are literally becoming the source of all abundance in your experience. Consider this. Everything in your world is yourself pushed out. Every dollar in your bank account, every opportunity that comes your way, every abundant circumstance in your life, all of it is yourself pushed out. Therefore, when you declare, I am the source of all abundance, you are acknowledging this fundamental truth. Now, here's what's fascinating about these 6 words. They must be spoken with feeling, not with emotion, but with the feeling of naturalness. When you speak these words, you must feel that they are true. Not that they will be true someday, but that they are true right now. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he wasn't making an affirmation. He was stating a fact. He was acknowledging his true identity. And this is exactly how you must speak these 6 words. Many of you might be thinking, but Neville, how can I be the source of all abundance when my current circumstances show lack? Let me tell you something. Your circumstances are only showing you your past beliefs pushed out. They have no power over your I am unless you give them that power. When you speak these 6 words, I am the source of all abundance, you are literally recreating your world. For your world must conform to your I am statements. It has no choice. It is law. Let me share with you how to properly use these 6 words. First, you must speak them to yourself immediately upon waking. Before you engage with the world, before you check your phone, before you begin your day, declare with complete conviction, I am the source of all abundance. And this is crucial, you must feel the truth of these words as you speak them. Feel what it feels like to be the source of all abundance. Feel the naturalness of it. Feel the reality of it. For feeling is the secret. And without the feeling, the words are empty. Throughout your day, whenever you encounter any appearance of lack or limitation, immediately speak these 6 words to yourself, not as a denial of the appearance, but as a reminder of your true identity. For you see, lack and limitation have no power in the presence of these 6 words when properly understood and felt. Consider this: every wealthy person you admire, every successful person you respect, every abundant circumstance you desire, all of it is yourself pushed out. Therefore, when you declare, I am the source of all abundance, you are acknowledging your true relationship to all abundance. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. What you acknowledge yourself to be, you become. Therefore, when you acknowledge yourself as the source of all abundance by speaking these 6 words, you must become that in your experience. Many of you make the mistake of looking for abundance outside yourself. You look to your job, but I tell you now, abundance can only come through you because you are its source. These 6 words acknowledge this truth. When you go to sleep at night, let these 6 words be the last thing in your consciousness. Feel what it feels like to be the source of all abundance. Let this feeling saturate your consciousness as you drift off to sleep. For the feeling you fall asleep with tends to clothe itself in form. Let me share with you another principle. Your consciousness is the only reality. Therefore, when you fill your consciousness with these 6 words and their true meaning, you are literally creating an abundant reality. Many of you may be wondering how long it will take to see results from speaking these 6 words. Let me tell you, the results are instant in consciousness. The outer manifestation will follow according to the naturalness of the way. But the change in consciousness is immediate when these words are properly understood and felt. Consider this: every time you speak these 6 words with understanding and feeling, you are literally restructuring your entire universe. For your universe is your consciousness pushed out, and these words, when properly understood, completely transform your consciousness. Let me share with you how to maintain the consciousness of these 6 words throughout your day. Whenever you handle money, whenever you engage in business, whenever you think about finances, immediately remind yourself, I am the source of all abundance. But remember, these words must never become mechanical. They must always be spoken with understanding and feeling, for it is the understanding and feeling that gives them power, not the mere repetition of the words. Many of you may be thinking, but never, what about my current bills, my current debts, my current financial obligations? Let me tell you something. When you truly know yourself as the source of abundance, these things are transformed, for they must conform to your new consciousness. Let me share with you another principle. What you consciously assume, you must become. Therefore, when you consciously assume the truth of these 6 words, I am the source of all abundance, you must become that in your experience. Consider this: every wealthy person you've ever known, every successful person you've ever met, every abundant circumstance you've ever witnessed, all of it came from consciousness. And these 6 words, when properly understood and felt, create the consciousness of unlimited abundance. Let me share with you how to handle doubt when it arises, and it will arise. When doubt appears in your mind, do not fight it. Instead, gently but firmly remind yourself, I am the source of all abundance. Feel the truth of these words. Feel the reality of them. Feel the naturalness of them. Many of you make the mistake of trying to convince yourself of these words. But I tell you now, you do not need to convince yourself of what is already true. You only need to recognize it, acknowledge it, and feel it. When you speak these 6 words, I am the source of all abundance, you are not trying to make something true. You are acknowledging what is already true. For you see, you are already the source of all abundance. You just haven't recognized it yet. Let me share with you another principle. Your outer world must conform to your inner conversations. Therefore, when you make these 6 words your constant inner conversation, your outer world must become abundant. Consider this. Every dollar that exists in the world, every opportunity that presents itself, every abundant circumstance that appears, all of it is consciousness made visible. And these 6 words, when properly understood and felt, create the consciousness of unlimited abundance. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you don't see immediate results from speaking these 6 words. Let me tell you, continue speaking them with understanding and feeling. For the law is absolute. What you consciously assume, you must become. Let me share with you how to make these 6 words more powerful with each passing day. Every time you speak them, deepen your understanding of their meaning. Feel more deeply the truth they contain. Let them become more and more natural to you. Consider this. Every time you speak these 6 words with understanding and feeling, you are literally recreating your entire financial world. For your financial world is nothing more than your consciousness of abundance pushed out. Let me share with you another principle. What you feel real is real in effect. Therefore, when you make these 6 words feel real to you, they must become real in your experience. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, these are just words. Let me tell you something. There is no such thing as just words. Words are the instruments of creation. And these 6 words, when properly understood and felt, are the most powerful creative instruments you can use. Let me share with you how to use these 6 words in specific situations. When you receive a bill, speak these words. When you check your bank balance, speak these words. When you think about your financial future, speak these words. But remember, you must always speak them with understanding and feeling, for it is the understanding and feeling that gives them power, not the mere repetition of the words. Consider this. Every abundant circumstance you desire already exists in consciousness. And these 6 words, when properly understood and felt, align you with that consciousness. Let me share with you another principle. What you declare yourself to be, you must become. Therefore, when you declare, I am the source of all abundance, you must become that in your experience. Many of you may be wondering how these 6 words can possibly transform your financial world. Let me tell you, they transform your consciousness, and your consciousness transforms your world. Let me share with you how to make these 6 words your constant companion. Write them where you can see them. Speak them whenever you think of them. Feel their truth whenever you remember them. Consider this. Every time you speak these 6 words with understanding and feeling, you are literally rearranging the entire universe according to your new consciousness of abundance. Let me share with you another principle. Your consciousness is the only reality. Therefore, when you fill your consciousness with these 6 words and their meaning, you are literally creating an abundant reality. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, what about the economy? What about the market conditions? What about the external circumstances? Let me tell you something. None of these things have power over your consciousness unless you give them that power. Let me share with you how to maintain the power of these 6 words even in the face of contradictory circumstances. Remember, circumstances are only showing you your past consciousness pushed out. Your new consciousness, created by these 6 words, will create new circumstances. Consider this. Every time you speak these 6 words with understanding and feeling, you are literally recreating your entire relationship with abundance. Let me share with you another principle. What you claim yourself to be, you must become. Therefore, when you claim, I am the source of all abundance, you must become that in your experience. And that, my dear friends, is the power of these 6 words. Not because they are magical, but because they acknowledge the truth of who you really are. not because they are affirmations, but because they are recognition. Remember this, you are the source of all abundance. These 6 words only acknowledge this truth. Therefore, speak them daily, speak them with understanding, speak them with feeling, and watch your world transform. So what will you do with these 6 words? Will you continue to seek abundance outside yourself? Or will you acknowledge yourself as its source by speaking these words with understanding and feeling? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. What you consciously assume you must become. Therefore, assume the truth of these 6 words, I am the source of all abundance, and watch your world transform. Let me share with you an even deeper truth about these 6 words, I am the source of all abundance. They contain within them the complete understanding of the 3 great secrets of manifestation: identification, externalization, and persistence. First, there is identification. When you speak these words, you are identifying yourself with the very source of abundance, not with the effects of abundance, but with its cause. This is crucial, my dear friends, for most people identify themselves with the effects, their current bank balance, their current circumstances, their current limitations. But these 6 words identify you with the cause of all abundance. Consider what this means. Every time you speak these words with understanding, you are literally shifting your identity from one who receives abundance to one who creates abundance. This is not a small shift. It is a complete transformation of consciousness. Let me share with you how this identification works at the deepest level. When you say I am, you are using the divine name. And when you follow it with the source of all abundance, you are completing that divine name with your highest understanding of your true nature. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville is as presumptuous. Let me tell you something that my teacher Abdullah taught me years ago. He said, Neville, you cannot presume what you already are. You can only acknowledge it or deny it. Let me share with you the second great secret contained in these 6 words, externalization. You see, when you declare, I am the source of all abundance, you are not just making an internal statement. You are setting in motion the law of externalization, whereby your consciousness must project itself into your world. Think about this carefully, my dear friends. Every single object in your world, every circumstance, every dollar in your bank account, all of it is your consciousness externalized. Therefore, when you fill your consciousness with these 6 words, properly understood and felt, you are literally recreating your entire external world. Many of you struggle with this concept because you think externalization takes time. But I tell you now, it is instantaneous in consciousness. The outer manifestation appears to take time only because of our attachment to what we call natural law. But I tell you, the only law is consciousness. Consider the story of the fig tree in Scripture. When Jesus spoke to it, it appeared unchanged in the moment. But by the next day, it had withered from the roots. This is how externalization works. It begins instantly in the invisible realm of consciousness and then works its way into visible manifestation. Let me share with you how this principle of externalization works with these 6 words. When you say, I am the source of all abundance, you are not trying to change anything in the outer world. You are establishing a new truth in consciousness. And once established in consciousness, it must externalize itself. This is where most people make a crucial mistake. They speak words trying to change their outer world directly. But I tell you now, you cannot change the outer world directly. You can only change consciousness, and consciousness will change your world. Let me give you a deeper understanding of how this works. When you speak these 6 words, I am the source of all abundance, you are literally planting a seed in the garden of your mind. And just as a physical seed contains within it everything necessary to produce its fruit, these 6 words contain within them everything necessary to produce abundance. But, and this is crucial, You must allow this seed to take root in consciousness. You must water it with understanding and nourish it with feeling. For feeling, my dear friends, is the fertilizer of manifestation. Many of you come to me asking, Neville, how long must I speak these words before I see results? And I tell you now, the results are instant in consciousness. The moment you speak these words with true understanding and genuine feeling, the transformation begins. Let me share with you the third great secret contained in these 6 words, persistence. Now, when I speak of persistence, I am not speaking of mechanical repetition. I am speaking of persistent identification with the truth these words contain. Consider this. Every great oak tree was once a tiny acorn. But that acorn didn't become an oak tree by wishing or hoping or even by positive thinking. It became an oak tree by persistently being what it was, the source of an oak tree. This is exactly how these 6 words work. When you say, I am the source of all abundance, you are not trying to become something you are not. You are persistently identifying with what you already are. Let me share with you something profound about persistence. Most people think persistence means repeating words over and over. But true persistence is about maintaining a state of consciousness. When you speak these 6 words with understanding and feeling, you are entering a state of consciousness. Your task is to persist in that state. Many of you may be wondering how to persist in this state when your outer world shows no immediate change. Let me tell you something, your outer world has no choice but to change when you persist in the proper state of consciousness. It is law. Consider the story of Joshua and the walls of Jericho. For 6 days, nothing appeared to change, but they persisted in their consciousness of victory. On the 7th day, the walls fell. This is how persistence works. You maintain the consciousness until the outer world conforms to it. Let me share with you a deeper principle of these 6 words. They are not just words. They are a complete statement of truth about your relationship with abundance. When you say, I am the source of all abundance, you are acknowledging your true position in the universe. Think about this carefully. Most people see themselves as recipients of abundance. They think abundance comes to them from some external source. But these 6 words completely reverse that perspective. They acknowledge you as the source. That's the message I want to leave with you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because it's what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, these 6 words will transform your world when properly understood and felt, every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about?